Hey guys, what's going on? Excoundrel here. Today we're going to look at a composition called Vanguards. You can play two major variations of this composition. You can play Vanguards Mystics and Vanguards Celestial, but I'm going to focus mostly on Vanguards Celestial. I will talk about Vanguards Mystics in this video and how to build it, as well as itemization too. If you like the content and you're a fan of TFT and TFT Mobile content in general, please consider dropping a subscribe. I would really appreciate it. This is a very fun composition. As you can see in the clips right now, nothing is more fun than watching Jayce slam people in the head for 1400 damage. It's super fun and actually very consistent as long as no one else is trying to build it at the same time. So let's talk about the core champions for the Vanguards Jayce composition. Jayce, Wukong, and Mordekaiser. Jayce and Mordekaiser are your priority 3 stars. Wukong is just a really good utility piece. Then you want your 4th Vanguard. That is mostly either going to be Poppy or Leona. I would recommend Poppy, mostly because Leona is pretty hotly contested, but you will probably use both of them in the early game because you will try and activate those 4 Vanguards before you can find Wukong. When it comes to other compositions, there are 3 major variations. There is Vanguard Celestial, Vanguard Mystic, and Vanguard Space Pirate, but Vanguard Space Pirate relies on a 2-star Gangplank and a 2-star Misfortune a lot of the time, and they are quite hard to make work. So the 2 major variations are Vanguard Mystic and Vanguard Celestial. The problem with Vanguard Mystic is that you rely on Lulu, so you need a legendary, whereas with Vanguard Celestial, you can actually put another Celestial in, like Xin Zhao or Xayah, over Lulu. I would recommend Xin Zhao because he adds a little bit of utility, but we'll talk about that in a moment. Having a look at the itemization, it's pretty similar across the top one being Vanguard Mystic and the bottom composition being Vanguard Celestial. Primarily, you are looking for needlessly large rods. They build into so many useful items in this composition that is probably just the best thing to try and aim for off early carousels. However, if you can get your hands on a spatula for Jayce in the Vanguard Mystic composition, you can make Jayce a dark star down the line, and that is really important if you want to really have some late game power in that Vanguard Mystic composition. But Vanguard Celestial, super strong. You want to look at the itemization for Ionic Spark, Morellonomicon, Hextech Gunblade, and GA, all being really important items. We're going to go through itemization in a bit more detail in just a moment when we talk through the guide. You know I do with my little positioning guide. So yeah, we're going to talk through that in just a moment. But this is the cheat sheet. Vanguard Celestial is the one that we're going to focus on for this video. Hey guys, let's talk a little bit about early game to mid game to late game of Vanguards, Jayce, Celestials, or Vanguards Mystics. There are 2 good ways to play this. Both of them focus on overwhelming healing with really high defenses. Now, Vanguard's Mystics is a composition that is really good if you're facing up against a lot of Sorcerer compositions, for instance. They're pretty good against Star Guardian compositions because obviously with the Mystics bonus, you're going to have a huge amount of magic resist, which means you're going to take less damage. And then Sona and Soraka also heal, so they're all going to give you a bit of innate sustain. However, I think the better variation of this build is Vanguard Celestials, because then you get the innate sustain in your build, and almost all of the Celestials, in fact every single Celestial, has got some kind of utility. So if you're going to use the composition that I suggested in the cheat sheet, then I would arguably say that that is the better composition, but just because of the pure amount of utility that you get from that comp. Now, what I will say is the items that are on Jayce in that cheat sheet, I would ignore just because they aren't actually optimal. I think there are a lot of other items that you could actually use on Jayce. Now let's talk about the early game. The early game is pretty simple actually. You're either going to want Poppy or Leona. You can get both of them, of course, but they don't really do that much damage, so they're basically going to be tanking for you. Ideally, the best case scenario is that you don't take Leona because she's pretty heavily contested in cybernetics, but you get Mordekaiser and Poppy. Now either you have Graves as well. So this is a good early start, Poppy, Mordekaiser, Graves, or Darius. So you can have Graves or Darius. The reason being is that when you find Jayce, you're going to get Space Pirate, and that can give you a bit of a gold snowball. I actually prefer Graves because I think his ability is more useful and he's easier to get to 2-star. Darius can be a bit hit or miss depending on whether he actually can reset his dunk. But this is a pretty good early start. But as with all starts, just take the 2 stars. I'm going to show you in a game that I just played. I literally just took any old 2-star until I could actually start to get into this composition. And actually, I think I played the game a bit funny because, to be honest, I go into ranked to force compositions in my videos, so sometimes they don't always work out. And that is unfortunately definitely hindering my progress right now. But I'm doing it for the videos, and that's important. You know, I really want to get the content out. So this is like a really ideal early start. In terms of items, one of the best items that you can shove on Mord in the early game is either Ionic Spark or Morellonomicon. Both of them are really good. This is like a really, really good early Mordekaiser. Because remember, Mordekaiser is also one of your hyper carries. If you can get him to 3-star, he's a really powerful unit. With these two items especially, that is fantastic. However, it's more likely that you're going to end up with one or the other. But both Ionic Spark and Morellonomicon are really good. And you want to prioritize getting these guys to 2-star at least. Graves 2-star if you can help it, but he's not an absolute priority. But these guys at 2-star would be fantastic. So then we're going to go into the mid-game. Let's talk about level 4 or 5. You want to get your 4 Vanguards online as soon as possible. This is where Leona could actually be useful. So a 1-star Leona is perfectly fine if that means that you can throw Jayce down as well. If we can find Jayce. That is perfectly fine as long as you can throw Jayce down. Now you really want your Jayce and Mordekaiser to be in the middle because you want these guys to take damage. And obviously you want these guys to be 2-star if you can help it. Really, really good items on Jayce is I actually genuinely think he's one of the few people in the game that really benefit from using Hextech Gunblade. I genuinely think Hextech Gunblade and Jayce is actually pretty solid. So yes, that's a good item for him if you can get it. He also does really well with something like Guardian Angel. Guardian Angel is also a really good item on Jayce. He does great with Rabadon's Death Cap, for instance, because he does pure damage. Something that I played last game, and you'll see in this game, is actually playing it with Jeweled Gauntlet is a really, really cool unit. Basically, I want you to use your head when it comes to itemizing Jayce. He does most of his damage comes from his ability, so don't get caught up in putting things like Gwynsu's on him. Don't put things like Bloodthirster on him. Don't put things like Infinity Edge on him. All of his damage comes from his ability. So GA is good because it's obviously going to give him a second life. But to be honest with you, things like Rabadon's, things like Ionic Spark, for instance, things like Hextech Gunblade are all really good. Morellonomicon is better on Mordekaiser, but yeah. So this would be your mid-game. You have the Space Pirate combo of Jayce and Graves. You have 4 Vanguards. This will beat most mid-games. And then you're going to work towards your later stages of the game. So what you're going to be looking for is Wukong to replace either Poppy or Leona with, whoever, and you want to get him to 2-star. He also works really well with Morellonomicon. So if you get 2 of them, that's good. You can eventually look to drop. So you are going to want to eventually look to drop your Graves. So Graves will eventually go. And actually what I really like to have early on, because it's a very high utility, is having Rakan. And you can have Rakan in the front line, or you can have Rakan just behind. And then you want Ashe as well. This gives you super high utility. These guys don't really need items. I actually think Rakan is a pretty easy 3-star to go for. Ashe as a 2-star is good. But Rakan you only get Rakan to 3-star if you really want to. Your 2 hyper carries are supposed to be Jayce and Mordekaiser. So at level 6, your highest chance of finding 2 costs and 3 costs is at level 6. That's where you're going to want to do your rolling. You don't have to hyper roll it. You can just roll at 50 gold if you want to. However, hyper rolling can work at level 6 as well. So if you want to roll all your gold down and try and find a 2-star Mordekaiser or a 2-star Jayce, you can. This is where it's really important that you should definitely be scouting your opponents. If anybody else is going for, I always do this. I always put them 1 hex away from the end. What I really meant is up here. If anyone else is going Jayce and Mordekaiser, then you probably don't want to hyper roll. You just want to take it slow at 50 gold. And then you're looking for, when you get towards level 7 and level 8, you are looking for obviously Lulu at level 8 if you can help it. However, you don't need Lulu. So what let's say you don't get Lulu, but you are going to go to level 7. So you want to bring in Kassadin. Kassadin is obviously going to be your next unit to bring in. He will want to be 2-star if you can help it. And then you're basically looking at whatever Celestial you can get your hands on. I actually ended up spending a lot of time with a Zio to give me 4 Celestials, and this would be my level 8. But as soon as you find Lulu, you're going to want to swap that out. And then that'll be your level 8 composition. If you want to add someone at level 9, I would recommend Soraka to get 2 Mystics on the board to give you some extra magic resist. This is a really powerful level 9 composition, and this is what it would look like at the end of it. You could even put Lulu over here and maybe just put Ashe in the middle. But this is what it would look like at the end of it. You've got Disarm from Kassadin. You've got Knock Up from Rakan. You've got Stun from Ashe. You've got some healing coming in at level 9 from Soraka, and you've got obviously the CC coming in from Lulu, the polymorph. And Lulu works really well with something like Spear of Shojin, by the way. That's a really, really good item for Lulu. Ashe would work well with Spear of Shojin as well, so that's also another item you can consider to put on her. And that is basically your composition. But let's say you don't want to go Celestial. Let's say you want to go Mystics. What you would do is you would drop all of these guys. You would bring in if I can find them. Sorry, guys. And the reason I don't like Celestial as much as... Sorry, Mystics as much as Celestial, is that you rely on 2 4 costs, and you do kind of rely on Lulu. You actually just 100% need Lulu. Whereas in Celestial, you don't 100% need Lulu. You can actually get away with running a Xayah if you really want to, or whatever other Celestial you can get your hands on. In this case scenario, with Jayce, and actually, this composition is better if you can get Dark Star's Heart, because you're going to have the Dark Star on Mordekaiser and Jayce, which is going to make you incredibly powerful, and then you have all of the magic resist to back you up. You need that item, I think, to make this composition overall better than the composition that you have with Celestials. So that is pretty much the entire composition. I hope you enjoyed. Let's go through a little rundown of sections of the game of me playing this comp, but I'm playing the Celestial version, so we're going to talk about that one. So let's take a look at the early game. We're at 2-5. We're about to come up to the first major creep round here, and I want to show you what we're running. We've got a Jarvan, a Fiora, a Kha'Zix, and a Mordekaiser. So we've got some random 2-stars essentially. You can see that I've given the Fiora a Hextech Gunblade and a Dragon's Claw, both of which I feel are pretty solid for Jayce, and she's basically carrying the items for Jayce. I'm not going to use Fiora in this composition, and I've just given Jarvan a random tier because he's the only unit on the field that I'm going to sell as well at some point. And obviously giving him a tier can give me a bit of an attack speed boost early on in the rounds. So we've actually just basically set up Mordekaiser and Poppy because they're Vanguards early on. I'm just scouting around to see if anyone's going the same composition as me. In this game, there were 2 other people going Vanguards with Jayce. You can see this guy that I'm actually facing right now is playing the Vanguards Mystic composition. As you can see, he's got a Karma set up, and he's also running with the Vanguards as well. So he has got a very, very strong composition. He's basically playing the same thing as me as well. But I have essentially played this early game as just fit as many 2-stars into this composition as possible. Fiora is carrying the items for Jayce, and she will eventually get sold. And you can see that I'm even just doing pretty solidly against people that I really shouldn't be, and I end up winning against the other guy going for the similar composition to me. So that is the early game. Basically play whatever you want, but you do want to pick up Poppies, Leonas, Mordekaisers as a matter of priority. If I was playing optimally, we would be playing with a Jayce and a Graves, but obviously I didn't find a Jayce early on, so this has not really worked out that way. I actually pick up the Ashe here because Ashe is a great utility piece, so add the Ashe in at level 5. Haven't got Celestials, but just having the stun from Ashe's arrow is always a good thing, so that's why I've got her in this comp. Now we're going to move over to a small portion of the mid game. I still haven't found a Jayce at 3-3, so I'm forcing this composition because for the video, so I probably shouldn't have done, given that I hadn't found a Jayce at this point. But you can actually alter this composition to have the Jhin as a carry instead, and that you can see here that I'm basically playing Jhin carry just in the mid game, trying to look out for a potential Jayce to move into a Jayce composition later down the line. So Jhin can be a good either pivot composition, or you can just play Jayce. And you can see now we're here at 4-3. We've got a 2-star Jayce. We've transferred the items over. We've got Wukong. We've got a 2-star Mordekaiser. We've got our 4 Vanguards. And more importantly, we've got Rakan and Ashe as well. So the double Celestial is activated. So we've actually got a very, very, very strong composition now. We have rolled down at level 6 to try and find as many things as possible. Instead of finding a Jayce, we actually found a metric boatload of Rakans. We're actually just 1 Rakan away from a 3-star Rakan. But you can see how much damage Jayce is doing, even just at 2-star, and he's very tanky. He has loads of healing with the Celestials on top as well, and we've actually got a super strong mid-late game composition right now. If I had a 2-star Mordekaiser and a 2-star Jayce, we would be winning this game outright because of just the itemization that we've got for these guys. But right now we're not. We're just having to roll with what we've been given. And I'm obviously working towards a 3-star Rakan, and 3-star Rakan, if I give him some defensive itemization, will be really strong. You can see on this this particular carousel, I would actually be gunning for the Lulu here. The Lulu would give me a tier on Lulu, which is really strong, but it would also give me another Celestial. Unfortunately, I don't find the Lulu, so instead I pick up the Cho'Gath with the Needlessly Large Rod. Needlessly Large Rod is going to give me another potential item that I could put onto Jayce, for instance, like a Rabadon's. In this particular game, I ended up going for a Jeweled Gauntlet because a Jeweled Gauntlet is actually pretty strong on Jayce, and if he crits with his ability, he can hit real hard and basically one-shot carries. So I really like the idea of having a Jeweled Gauntlet on Jayce, although I wouldn't say it's like 100% optimal. And you can see here, I get the 3-star Rakan, and we're actually into late game mode now. Just going to quickly skip past this neutral round, and then we're going to come back into the point where we're fighting again. Alright, so let's get past this neutral round, and then we're going to jump into another fight here, and you can see we're going up against a guy with a 3-star Mordekaiser. He's also running a Jayce composition, but he's running the Mystics version. So he's actually running the Mystics version of this composition. I am running the Celestial version, but I want you to keep a close eye on Jayce and how untouched he is throughout all of this. Yes, they have healing from Soraka, but just my Jayce is doing so much work and just generating so much HP back through the Celestial bonus, because we've now got the 4 Celestial bonus, and you can see that I've added the Xayah instead of the Lulu, just to give me that Celestial bonus to make sure that my unit stays as safe as possible. And we beat the chap running the 3-star Mordekaiser. He doesn't have any items on his Mordekaiser, of course, but just shows you how strong this composition is, even versus its counterpart of the Mystics, when they've got a 3-star Mordekaiser. We don't even have a 3-star Mordekaiser or a 3-star Jayce. We're running on 2 stars, and we're still doing incredibly well in this game. And that's everything. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will see you very soon for another guide. Going to focus maybe on some of the newer strats coming out, like Hyper Roll Protectors. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to like and subscribe. It'll be really nice of you. Thank you.